Good afternoon. Welcome to the Kim Hammer Show. Glad to have you joining us on a chilly Saturday afternoon, but it's a beautiful day to be out and about taking care of things. Want to remind you of a couple events. Number one, watch out for the hunters because deer season is here. And so be careful as you're driving up and down the highways, especially out in the county. And if you're looking for some good family fun, today is the Bryant Fall Fest going on at Mills Park down there in Bryant. Goes till 2 o'clock. Got a lot of activity for kids, and it is socially distanced safe. And so you'll be able to go out and have a good time, not have to worry about the COVID. And then this evening, also in Benton, they'll be doing an event downtown Benton. So I encourage you to just take advantage of those opportunities or get out in your local community as well. Wanted to just thank the sponsors and remind you that the views that are expressed on this show, on the Kim Hammer Show, are mine and mine alone, or that of my guests. But I do appreciate those that allow to make this hour possible every Saturday here at noon, or here noon on 101.1 FM. The Answer. That would be Everett GMC Buick down in Saline County there in I-30 at the Elko Overpass. Great place to buy a brand new GMC Buick or get a pre-certified used vehicle. Get your car fully serviced from bumper to bumper, top to bottom. They'll take care of you all the way around, and it's a great place for you to go get good quality deals, whether you're looking to buy a new, used, or just get your car maintained. Then Baxley Penfield Mounty Real Estate there in Central Arkansas, there in Saline County, taking care of all of Central Arkansas with regards to your real estate needs, whether it be commercial or residential, either one. If you're looking to rent property, you have property that you want to rent, they also have a division that'll take care of that in that area as well. They're located there at Spring Hill and Highway 5, and they've got a great facility and a great staff that'll take care of you with all your real estate needs. Edwards Food Store, Edwards Food Giant, Cash Savers. I was in there again this morning. Great store, great place to shop. I use the one there in Bryant. They take really good care of your customers. You can order online, have it ready to be picked up at the curbside. They've got great produce. The meat market is excellent. All the shelves were stocked and everything that you would need at affordable prices. They had some really good sales going on. And so I'd encourage you just to take a look at Edwards Food Store and Edwards Cash Saver. We're going to start the Kim Hammer Show. First of all, just give you an idea of the lineup so you can get all your friends tuned in if they're not listening, because it is going to be an action-packed show today on the Kim Hammer Show. It's also going to be very educational because we're going to talk about Amendments 1, 2, and 3. I have in studio the director of RDOT, Arkansas Department of Transportation, Lori Tudor, Saline County girl, woo. And so I've got Lori in studio with us. She'll be with us till 12:30. And then I've got Senator Matt Pitch, who was the sponsor of Amendment 3. And I've got Senator Alan Clark, who was the sponsor of Amendment 2. So if you've been confused by all the amendments, tell all your friends and get word to them that they need to tune in right now, either watching live on Facebook or listening on 101.1 FM The Answer, that they can get good, accurate information. We're going to start off, though, with Kirk Lane, who is I refer to him as the drug czar for the state of Arkansas, former police chief at Benton. And Kirk, you're on the road traveling. Tell them what you're out and about doing today.
So, yes, sir. So we're just leaving Hot Springs for the drug take-back site there in Hot Springs. We're actually headed back to Benton to cheer on those guys and gals and those citizens that are making their community safe through the drug take-back.
And this is one of several days throughout the year that you set aside a day for people to turn in their unused drugs, and no questions asked. You just pull up and you just give them whatever prescription drugs it is that they have. Can they? I think we've debated this before, talked about it. They can turn in either pills or liquids or any form of drugs. Is that correct?
That's correct. This whole program is about educating communities to monitor, secure, and dispose of their medication safely. That's what it's all about. So whatever they feel comfortable in disposing, we'll be glad to commercially incinerate those products.
And the location in Benton is at Ferguson there at the corner of Military and Ferguson Drive. And what about any other locations in Central Arkansas?
So I think the best thing to do is to go to our website, artakeback.org. You can put in your, look for the collection site. You can put in your zip code, and you can find the closest site to you. Statewide, we have 254 permanent drop boxes, which you can drop off at any time, not just today. And today we have 114 sites throughout the state.
And to date, do you know how many pounds have been turned in? Maybe, if you don't know since the beginning of the program, how about just maybe for this year?
Well, I can tell you since the beginning of the program, this is our 10th year, our 10th year anniversary, we have collected and safely destroyed 187 tons, and we're on track to probably over 200 tons by the end of the day.
That's incredible. That is incredible. And the one thing people need to know is when they pull up like they're at Benton, it's Benton Police Department that is staffing it, but they're not going to be asked any questions. There's not going to be any, follow up or any of that kind of stuff. There's no reason for anybody to feel insecure or inhibited about turning in whatever drugs they have in their house. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is not an investigation. It's a community service. And it's a very important community service because not only does it protect the health and safety of citizens, but it also protects the environment.
Yeah, I know a lot of times people think they can just flush it down the toilet. That's the worst thing you can do because that'll get into the water systems. And then when ADQ goes out and tests the city water, if they find traces of that, it is not a good thing. So please don't think that you can dispose of them yourself. Get them to the local drop box. And again, the website is artakeback.org. Is that right, Chief Lane?
That's correct. That's correct. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks for taking a few minutes. I know you're traveling, and I really appreciate you taking time. And again, folks, if you have any unused drugs in your home that you want to get rid of in Saline County, you can go to Ferguson's there, Ferguson Furniture. They're set up on the corner there at Military and Ferguson Drive, and you can get rid of those unused drugs. And the good thing is, you may not think that your kids will get in your medicine cabinet. You may not think that, family members will get in your medicine cabinet, but they will. So why not remove the temptation and get all that stuff out of your house and get it to a take-back location so that we can protect you and protect your family, and as Kirk said, protect the environment. Kirk, anything else you want to share with us?
No, you guys have a safe day, and we appreciate you.
All right, appreciate you. I'll get you to come back on the show, and we'll talk more about that. It's been a while since I had you on there. But that is Kirk Lane. He is the director over the drug program here in Arkansas on a statewide level, but also he was very instrumental in getting the drug take-back program started here in Arkansas over 10 years ago. And you heard what he said, 250 or 187 tons of medication. Lori, I do think we might be a little overprescribed as a state and as a nation. All right, let's turn our attention now to Issue 1, Arkansas Issue 1, which is the Transportation Sales Tax Continuation Amendment of 2020. And I just pulled up a website and just read this, and then let's get into the discussion on it. Arkansas Issue 1, the Transportation Sales Tax Continuation Amendment, is on the ballot in Arkansas as a legislatively referred constitutional amendment on November 3rd of this year. A yes vote supports continuing the half-cent sales tax with revenue dedicated to the state and local highways, roads, and bridges that would otherwise expire in 2023, and a no vote opposes continuing the half-cent sales tax, thereby allowing the tax to expire once bond debt authorized in 2012 is repaid in 2023. So as a legislator that was there when this started, let me just give a little background for the audience. We, as a legislative body back in 2011, initiated or voted to refer this half-cent sales tax, but it had a sunset on it where it would end in 10 years, and that is in 2023. And that money that was dedicated to that was intended to help retire bond debt that was authorized in 2012. So we're coming up on the end of that. Now, what people, and the reason I wanted to get Lori on the show is because as the director of RDOT, I wanted you to give us a perspective of the impact of if the tax passes and if the tax fails from the director of RDOT. So let me just start off by welcoming you to the Kim Hammer Show.
Thank you.
Public disclaimer, I used to be Lori's pastor years ago at Holland Chapel, so we know each other. Hi, Jeff. I'm sure you're listening. All your kids are listening, and good, miss y'all, but glad to have Lori on the radio today. So tell me, as far as what is going to happen if it doesn't pass.
Okay, thank you. I asked Senator Hammer if I should call him Brother Kim or Senator Hammer. He said, well, either one's okay. We'll
Either one's
confuse
fine. Either one's fine.
So I'm just glad to be here today. And what will happen if it doesn't pass? Well, this half-cent sales tax was voted into place by voters in 2012, and we started collecting it July 1st of 2013. So this revenue has been in place since 2013, and 70% of the revenue generated has come to RDOT, and the other 30% has gone to cities and counties. Cities and counties have used that revenue to supplement their road and street budgets. And if issue one fails, one of the biggest impacts is that funding, that revenue source will be removed, and cities and counties will experience about a 30% reduction in their city, street, and county road budgets. Out on our website, ardot.gov, if you go to that website and you click on right on the front page is the Renew Arkansas Highways program, which is what we're calling this issue one tax. If the issue one extends the half-cent sales tax. But anyway, if you click on that, you'll see a pamphlet, and in that pamphlet, it'll show you the repercussions of issue one not passing to cities and counties, and it's significant. It's a significant reduction in their road and street budgets, and that's going to be very, very difficult for them to keep up with their roads without this funding. So it's going away or it's going to be extended. Either way, it's going to impact our roads at a local level as well as the state highway level. For state highways, it's just going to take us a lot longer to do what we need to do to maintain and keep up with our roads. For example, if issue one passes, we'll be able to improve about 7,000 miles of non-interstate roads over a 10-year period. If issue one fails, it'll take us 15 years to do the same amount of work. Also, we have set aside funding for capital and congestion relief projects, and we have a list of those out there on our website that you can see, because we are telling voters, if you vote for this, this is what we're going to do, so you know where your tax dollars will go. If issue one fails, the same work will take, if issue one passes, it'll take 20 years to accomplish those major highway projects. If issue one fails, it'll take us 50 years to do the same project. So you can see that capital and congestion relief projects will be the most to suffer if issue one fails.
I'm looking at some numbers as far as, and it says the Department of Finance Administration estimated that the half-cent sales tax authorized by the amendment would generate $293.3 million in revenue based on 12 months of collection, and it would be allocated the following way: 70%, which is 205, would go to state highways; 15%, which is 44 million, to county transportation; and 15%, which is 44 million, to the city transport. That's if it passes.
That's correct.
If it fails, is it the same amount of money that's going to be deducted from those areas as well?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. The length of time that it would take to do the projects that you mentioned, which you kind of divided them in two categories. One was 7,000 miles of non-interstate.
Right.
How many total miles do you know are there of roads that are non-interstate in the state of Arkansas?
There is around 16,000.
Okay. So about half the roads then would be able, and we're talking about like state highways, like Highway 35 or Highway 64,
That's correct.
those type, Highway 70, those
That's
roads.
right.
Okay. And what about the bridges as far as where do the bridges? Because I know that the bridges are in a state of disrepair, and that's been a conversation around the Capitol for a long time about the condition of the bridges. How much of this money would go toward fixing the bridges?
We have set aside 1.1 billion over 10 years towards our bridges. And if issue one passes, we'll be able to replace or repair every structurally deficient and every posted bridge on the state highway system.
Okay. And what about matching federal funds? Where does that come into the conversation? If Amendment 1 passes, how much drawdown would we be able to get out of because what we're talking about here are these numbers that I read a while ago, that's just generated on the tax itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's not counting any federal money that we would draw down. Is that right?
Right. When we put together the Renew Arkansas Highways program, what we did is we looked at all the revenue, all the federal funding, all the existing state funding, and then the additional funding that issue one would bring in over the period of time from July 1st, 2023 on. And so we looked at the overall program and allocated that. And we I haven't really gotten into that, but issue one is going to guarantee that we can match all the federal dollars that are made available to us. That is something that if issue one fails, we're going to be in a situation where we're really going to have to figure out how are we going to match our federal aid. We haven't talked a lot about that. We've tried to be positive. This is what you'll get. These are the projects that you'll get. But underneath all that, it also means we'll be able to match every federal dollar that we receive here in Arkansas.
Okay. And how much did you say in federal dollars right now we're matching
It's around 400, about 400 million a year.
a year?
Mhm.
Okay. So would we lose 400 million a year, or we would just have to figure out how to?
We would have to figure out how we're going to match all of the federal aid that comes our way. We will do everything in our power not to lose any federal dollars, but we may be in a situation where we're having to come to the legislature and say, look, this is where we're at. If we want to get all of these federal dollars for Arkansas, because the way that works is you're paying a federal gas tax and diesel tax on every gallon of gas. That goes to Washington, then it comes back to us. But they tell us how we should spend it on what type of roads and that type of thing. We have to match that usually about 20%. It's usually 80-20. And we're going to be getting closer and closer to that place that we can't match our federal aid without issue one.
The rebel side of me says, let's just not send it to Washington. Let's just keep it here and we'll spend it the way we want. But that's another discussion for another day. That's not realistic, but possible, but not realistic. So we've been having some committee meetings
Yes.
at the Capitol,
Yes.
and you've been on the job how long now as the director?
7 months.
7 months. Congratulations and condolences. So you've been on the job for 7 months. Been a lot of meetings going on at the Capitol because one of the criticisms that's been thrown at RDOT over the years is the mismanagement or the way in which you spend money, and that you could find more money if you really looked for it. Let me give you 2 or 3 minutes just to respond to that statement.
Okay, I will. First of all, at the department, we have a culture of continual improvement. And this efficiency review that was required by the legislature, we welcomed that. And we had them come in. And when they came in, we opened up everything. We told them what was working, what wasn't. We were just as completely transparent as we could be. And some really good ideas have come out of this efficiency review to make us more efficient. But it's not near, we might be able to save a little bit of funding and maybe become more responsive to the citizens and to the legislature. But to find $205 million a year in funding from putting in some kind of efficiencies, it's impossible. We're already doing the best we can. In fact, let me just share a statistic with you. We get compared to every state in the nation. And we are 16th in the number of miles that we have to maintain on our state highway system. But we're 41st in the amount of revenue we have for each of those miles. So we are towards the top in the number of miles to take care of, but we're towards the bottom in the amount of revenue per mile. But when they look at our administrative cost of what the Department of Transportation uses to administer all the maintenance, the operations, the construction, we're 48th in the nation. So we are efficient as far as it goes when you talk about administrating all the funding and the programs. We're doing the best we can within the limited amount of funding we have. And I'll just give you an example. In 1993, we had 4,100 employees. In 2019, we had 3,700 employees. So we've worked really hard to keep government down, to keep the number of employees down, to do more with less. But there comes a time where you can't do more with less. You're doing less with less, and we can't meet the public's expectations and do everything that they're expecting us as the department to do. And it's not all about just highway construction. You're talking about snow and ice removal, mowing, trash cleanup, culvert clean out, all these things, striping, signing, there's so much that goes into maintaining our roads. And we do the best we can within the funding we have available. Issue one will give us something that we can plan into the future. We can do a better job, and people I don't know, we'll just be better able to meet expectations, and that's what we really want at the department.
Of the money that would come as a result of the continuation of the tax, is any of that or how much of that is earmarked for personnel, or is it all going to go into material? And I understand that maybe that's a loaded question because you got to issue contracts with, contractors that are out there. So I don't really count them as personnel. But I'm talking about as far as adding staff to RDOT, is any of this money going to grow the payroll?
No, sir. When we sat down and we said, okay, if issue one passes, we're going to get $205 million a year. We took that total amount and added it to our current construction budget. Our construction budget is all the federal and state money that we get, minus all the operation costs, our operational budget to keep the doors open, to keep the employees paid, all of that. And then we ended up with $440 million a year for highway construction. We took the total $205 million and added it to that so that everything, all of the money is going to be used for highway construction. We did not take any of that money and put it towards our operational budget.
Okay, let me give you 2 minutes to respond. Some of the consensus out there is that this is a new tax, which, depending on how you would argue that or look at that, when it was passed by the legislature back in 2011, it did have the sunset clause on it. Is this an additional? Give me your perspective, give me your response, because people say this is an additional tax, a new tax. And if you take the position that it was 10-year sunsetted and it should go away, you could make the argument that it is a new tax because it was supposed to die and it's being added back on. This one is going to go into the Constitution, which means it's going to be indefinite unless there's a referendum to repeal it. It'll be on there indefinitely. So what's your response to that?
Okay, of course, first of all, we're already paying this tax. So if issue one passes, you won't notice any difference in the amount of taxes you're paying. So from my perspective, it's not a new tax, it's a continuation of an existing tax. Now, what does this cost us, the normal taxpayer? We've a couple of different entities have looked at this, and because it doesn't apply to groceries, gasoline, or prescription medicines, the average
You just said
household,
it didn't apply to gasoline.
it does not.
Okay.
It does not.
Okay.
Okay. So the average household a household with average income is paying about $8 a month for this half-cent sales tax. That's what they're paying today. That will not change if issue one passes. It will continue to be $8 a month. So that, to me, it's not like you're going to start paying more than you're already paying. So it's not like a new tax, but it is a continuation of a tax that was going to go away. Now, the fact that it's in the Constitution, to me, is a benefit because that funding, if the voters decide, they have taken the power and they have said, okay, we're dedicating this funding for our roads and our roads alone. It cannot be used any other way. And that is the law, and it generates a lot of accountability because there's only one way you can use that money for your county roads, city streets, and state highways. So it's in the Constitution. It's protected from any other use of that funding. And as long as we're doing a good job, as long as we're using that money the way we should, and we have to be accountable, and we have to show that we're using it that way, it'd be against the law to do anything else, then hopefully the voters will think this is a good use of our tax dollars. We know where it's going. We see the progress. We see the better roads, the safer roads. We're spending less time in congestion, all of those things, all of those benefits. So I think being in the Constitution is not a negative. It's actually, to me, a positive because it does protect that source of funding for one purpose and one purpose alone.
Okay, tell you what, I'm going to hold you through the bottom of the hour, and I've got Senator Matt Pitch that's on the line. We're going to talk about his Amendment 3. But when we come back, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes of his time because I want to ask you this question, then we're going to go to break and you can think about it. And this is not intended to be insulting, but it is something I think that you need to have an opportunity to respond to. We put it in the Constitution. It's dedicated to one purpose only, which is the improvement of the highways. we are relinquishing control to RDOT, and what are the accountability factors that if you are given this authority, it is put in the Constitution, how can we know that you're going to do the best job with the dollars that you're given so that we know 5 years down the road we're going to see some measurable results? Because everybody wants to see a return on investment. What's the return on investment? And if you are an investor, why should we trust you with the money to know that you're going to invest it wisely, and what are we going to get? We'll get the answer to that from Lori Tudor, Director of RDOT, Arkansas Department of Transportation, when we come back. Thank you for listening to the Kim Hammer Show, and to my sponsors, which would be Everett GMC Buick, Baxley Penfield Mighty Real Estate, and Edwards Food Store. Appreciate y'all very much. Come on back and listen to the rest of the show on the Kim Hammer Show.
Take The Answer with you anywhere with our free mobile app, 1011fmtheanswer.com, your smart speakers, iHeart, or radio.com. Breaking news and stimulating talk. 101.1 FM, The Answer.
This week in the Town Hall Review with Hugh Hewitt, brought to you in partnership with the Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy. Mayor Giuliani exposes Hunter Biden's troubling computer contest.
Neither Hunter Biden nor Joe Biden have disputed a single thing that we put out on it.
Join us for our program. Sign up for our podcast at townhallreview.com.
Town Hall Review with Hugh Hewitt, Saturdays at 7 a.m. on 101.1 FM, The Answer.
Salem Media Little Rock just keeps getting better. If you're looking for some soul-lifting inspiration, check out 103.3 and 105.5 Rejoice, Little Rock's gospel experience. If Bible teaching is what you want, we've got you covered at Faith Talk 99.5. 93.3 The Fish is your home for real life, real hope. And our 101.1 The Answer is now the home of Rush Limbaugh. We're Salem Media Little Rock, the best in radio.
Hi, this is Albert Moeller with a brief word on the upcoming election. So much is at stake. Register, make your plans to vote today, and then vote.
Too many people sit on the sidelines on Election Day, but you can change that.
Don't just vote in the election, vote and talk about it.
Send a text,
Call your friends,
post to your Facebook wall,
tweet about it.
share your enthusiasm.
It's contagious.
Our democracy is a government of the people, for the people, by the people. Let's keep it that way.
This is a public service announcement from American Ground Radio and this station.
Hi, this is Hugh Hewitt. This radio station has been telling you about the importance of November's election for months. The outcome could vastly change our country's future. If you believe in all of your First Amendment freedoms and you want your family to pursue the American dream, your values are on the line. Make sure that you're registered and make your plans ahead to vote, whether at your polling place or by absentee. This election is critical. We're at a crossroads. Make sure you vote.
Hey, this is Mitch at Red River Ram Dodge Chrysler and Jeep right here in the beautiful town of Heber Springs. Folks, you know we are Arkansas's largest Dodge Chrysler and Jeep stores. That means we sell more new Ram Dodge Chrysler and Jeeps than anyone else in the state. And if you want to get the biggest discounts, you're going to want to make that beautiful drive. We've got the largest selection of Jeeps, and of course, you know we're Arkansas's #1 Ram dealer for over a decade. Check us out, please, online at redriverdodge.com or make that beautiful drive to Heber Springs and take advantage of 0% interest we have going on for Ram Power Days.
Welcome back to the Kim Hammer Show on a very chilly Saturday afternoon, but a beautiful day at that. And want to welcome back all of our listeners and have Lori Tudor, Director of RDOT, here in the studio. She's going to hang on through the second half, might get an extra question or two into her. Thanks to sponsors, which are Everett GMC Buick, Baxley Penfield Mighty Real Estate, and also Edwards Food Stores. And remind you that today is Drug Take Back Day. If you want to know where a location is, there's 254 permanent drop boxes that you can take all your unused prescription drugs to discard. And that website is artakeback.org, artakeback.org. It'd be a great time to get rid of it. All right, now we have on the radio Senator Matt Pitch, who, Matt, you're up in St. Louis, aren't you, or somewhere in that area up that way?
I am in St. Louis. My grandson, my son, and his wife. My son's a pastor up here in St. Louis, and we snuck away for the day to see him. We've seen him twice in the first 7 months of his life, so we thought we'd go and see him.
Well, I tell you, I appreciate you taking time away from the grandson there and just spending a little time on the Kim Hammer Show. And it's important because we're coming up on the election, which early voting is going on now. And I would really encourage you to get out and to vote. If you don't get out and vote, I really don't want to hear you whine because you didn't participate in the process. Sorry, kind of straightforward, but you need to get out and vote. And one of the issues that's on the ballot this year is Arkansas Issue 3, the initiative process and legislative referral requirements amendment of 2020, and you were you were the Senate sponsor. Representative Vaught carried it on the House end. I'm just going to read what the website says. It says a yes vote supports the amendment to change requirements for citizens initiatives and legislative referrals. A no vote opposes amendment to change requirements for citizens initiatives and legislative referrals, thereby leaving the initiative and referral process unchanged. So, as the architect of the bill, tell us what it does and what it does not do to get started.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be on your show. I really appreciate that. It very simply stated, it does 5 things. Instead of allowing a minimum of people in Arkansas to support an initiative, our current Constitution, without changes, says a majority of Arkansans should support an initiated process. We took the counties from 15 to 45, which is a 60% vote of Arkansans, thus defining the word majority. So signatures have to be collected in 45 counties so that it's a sweeping thing that people want. The second thing we did is we also applied that 60% ratio to the legislative initiatives. It currently is at 50%. As a matter of fact, of the 3 initiatives the voters are voting on this time, our change of 60% would have eliminated amendment or issue 2, the term limit amendment, because the legislature did not vote above the 60% threshold. The other thing it did is it did some date changing. One of the problems we have, had it again this cycle, is that when you turn in signatures for an initiated act, if you don't get them in a timely manner or you meet the current rules, there is still not enough time for someone to file a lawsuit or thus an impending appeal and get all that done. When I early voted earlier this week, I voted on Amendment 6. Well, Amendment 6 was thrown out through the process for various and sundry reasons, but it didn't get done in time to make an accurate ballot to give to the citizens to vote on in Arkansas. So we moved the signature collection dates up to January of the election year, and the last day to file a lawsuit in April 15th. And the fifth and final thing we did is we took out the Mickey Mouse thing we were seeing done by people when they collected signatures. And I shouldn't say people, because there's this thought that citizens are who do an initiated act. It almost always is a special interest with big out-of-state money. But what we were seeing them do is get up against the deadline, not have the signatures, and write Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck 20,000 times. And there was a thing called a cure period, which gave them another additional time frame to go collect signatures. We said enough of that. That's just causing time delay problems in a system that's cramped for time. And we proposed doing away with the cure period. So majority of people, 60% of the citizens, 60% on the legislature, did away with the cure period, moved the time to collect signatures up so we didn't have things on the ballot that weren't really going to matter or count. And then we set the date to match when the Supreme Court is in session so that lawsuits need to be filed by April 15th. We feel like it protects our most sacred Constitution, the thing that we should not change easily. And I've got statistics to show you how many times we as citizens have changed the Constitution in the last 15 to 20 years.
The 15 to 45 counties, and jump on the other side of the issue, pretend that you're the person out there trying to get the signatures gathered. What was happening that it was only limited to 15 counties?
Well, there are those, and I try not to be one of those. I try to understand both sides, and I appreciate you letting me try to describe their side. But what we were seeing was, as a state, this state has trended to the Republican nature. I mean, we're 76% of our elected officials in the House of Representatives are Republican in nature. So we were seeing a very partisan approach that brought us very partisan left type initiatives. We were seeing marijuana legalized. We were seeing casinos. We were seeing high minimum wage, et cetera, come through the petition process. And when they only had to do 15 counties of signature collection, they were only going, in my opinion, to the very farthest left partisan signature gathering counties. There are some of my colleagues think they were going strictly to urban areas rather than rural areas, and the rural areas were being ignored with only doing 15 of 75 counties. You could define it either way, but clearly we didn't have the majority of Arkansans wanting the petition that was gathering signatures to be approved.
The 60% on the legislative branch, too, I know it's always a battle every time because every legislator think they have the perfect constitutional amendment. And so we are not asking any more of the citizens through this amendment than we're willing to impose upon ourselves, which should weed down some of the present, because in case people don't know, the legislative branch gets an opportunity to present 3 constitutional changes during every general session.
That is correct. Yeah.
When it comes to the initiatives by the people, though, that could be fairly unlimited, is it? I mean,
absolutely. I mean, unlimited number and unlimited that make it to the ballot if they follow the guidelines as set forth by our current Constitution.
Okay.
We basically, from an outsider looking in, Senator, we were perceived as an easy mark state. You had to get 15 out of 75 counties. Outside money is almost always exceeding 90% of the funding that causes the liberal agenda or whatever agenda to come through. In my lifetime, I make this comment as I go around the state talking about issue 3. In my lifetime, we, as far as I know, have never, ever had a strictly citizen-led initiative only. It has almost always been special interest with big money, often most times big money from out of state, coming into the state of Arkansas with the petitions gathering signatures.
Well, and I've said it on the show ever since I've been doing the show, said it before the show, Arkansas is perceived as an easy target. And what they do from their strategy point of view is they want to pick the softest, easiest state to get something through. And then it's the ripple effect. Once they get it in one state, they start working the border states until they get, extended out, and then they take over the whole South. I think that, some of that could have been seen if the jungle primary would have went through, the redistricting, which was heavily funded by liberals out of Texas. We actually talked about that on the show. Why would you want to let Texas tell Arkansas what to do? But this should help curtail some of that. So a yes vote will help put this in place. A no vote is just going to be the continuation of what we've been having to deal with so far. So who would oppose, who would want a no vote on this?
Well, when I study the folks that are saying no, they keep calling it a power grab by the legislature. And I'm not entirely certain. I mean, I guess they're trying to pit the legislature. I saw Senator Clark out of Hot Springs make a comment about all votes are a trust issue. And do you trust folks, conservative senators, conservative representatives, who are saying that if we don't protect our Constitution, if you look at the results of the Constitution, I guess I'm over trying to describe their area, but I'm not happy with the name of a company in my Constitution. We're only allowed one brand of casino based upon the most recent constitutional gathered signature that got through the vote and was voted into our Constitution. This most recent time with casinos, we picked cities that didn't necessarily want casinos, and the rest of the state, supposedly, really 15 out of 75 counties, told them they were going to have a casino. There is all sorts of things fraught with what we've got going on right now when they look at us as an easy mark. People who vote no for this, though, they really need to take a hard look like we did of the things that have ended up in our Constitution. Let me make sure my numbers are correct, but since 1874, the U.S. Constitution has been changed 27 times. In Arkansas, we've changed it 100 times. We really need to take a look at what we're doing to our precious document, the Constitution for the state of Arkansas.
It would be interesting to do an overlay of where it was originally and the 100 changes that have been put into place and how that has changed the direction of Arkansas. All right, I've got
20,
to get, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say 20 of those 100 have happened in the last, I think it's 4 election cycles. So, I mean, we are on a pace where we're rapidly, literally changing our Constitution every single time. And quite frankly, we're not doing it with the majority of the Arkansans, where a lot of those things are being lawsuit and appealed and not making it to the finish line in time. So we're just trying to clean up the process.
Okay. Any parting words? I need to get Senator Clark on. Any parting words you want to share about Amendment 3?
Make sure your listeners go vote. I have a very sad situation that's happened more than a couple times. People have tested positive for COVID and they're quarantined for 14 days. I think most of the citizens are figuring it out as we're having record early voters turnout, but go vote and go vote. I'm not the biggest proponent for early voting, but you don't want to catch COVID and be stranded from being able to cast your vote.
Great observation. Go vote early. There are plenty of locations for you to do that. There's no reason not to go vote. At least there's no good reason. And so get out and vote. And if you were to honor Senator Matt Pitch's vote for Amendment 3. All right, Matt, thank you for taking time to be on the Kim Hammer Show and especially taking time away from your grandchild. Look forward to seeing you next week and be careful driving home.
Thank you, Senator Hammer. Appreciate all you do.
Thank you. You too. All right. Now we're going to go on to Senator Alan Clark, who was the author of Arkansas Issue 2, which is going to be on the ballot. Take a break real quick to say thank you to my sponsors, Everett GMC Buick in Saline County, and then Baxley Penfield Mighty Real Estate and Edwards Food Store here in Central Arkansas, over in East Arkansas. And remember, today is Drug Take Back Day. 187 tons have been collected so far, and you want to contribute to that by getting rid of all your unused drugs. No reason to keep them around. Let your grandkids or your kids get into them. So take it to a local drug take back location. If you wonder where they are, you can go up to artakeback.org, artakeback.org, and you can find a location there. All right, now joining us on the Kim Hammer Show is Senator Alan Clark. And Senator Clark, thanks for being on the Kim Hammer Show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so I'm looking at a website, kind of gives a brief description about Amendment 2. And basically what it says is the Arkansas Issue 2, the state legislative term limit amendment, is on the ballot in Arkansas as a legislatively referred Constitution amendment on November 3rd, which is vote day. A yes vote supports this measure to impose term limits on 12 consecutive years for state legislators with the opportunity to return after a 4-year break. And then a no vote opposes this measure, thereby keeping the state's current 16-year lifetime term limit for legislators. Let's start off by just asking, why is it that you felt compelled to put forth Issue 2, and what were some of the thought processes behind it?
3 reasons. One, lots of folks, not necessarily me, but lots of folks think that 16 years is too long, and 12 years, some states who had 6 years in the House and 8 years in the Senate, like we used to have gone to 12, and 12 seem to be working. And from experience, I think that you can gain experience as a legislator, learn what you're doing, and get things done in 12 years. Beyond that, the people voted for the ethics amendment in 2014, but many some have said that they didn't know that the term limits were in there. So I want them to have a chance with a very transparent amendment to know exactly what's there. And third, there's a continual move to take term limits back to 6 years in the House, 8 in the Senate, but making it even more strict with a 10-year total, which would mean the Senate would be as decimated as the House was. Under the old term limits, which I supported originally, not having been in the legislature, under the old term limits, every time the House met, you had an average of 2 years experience. 1/3 had 0 experience, 1/3 had two years or had been through 1 session, and 1/3 had been through 2 sessions. And that made it that gave the lobbyists, that gave the bureaucrats a tremendous advantage with their whisper campaigns to stall legislation and keep you from getting things done. Now that we have more experience and people know where the bodies are buried, we get much more done. So again, this proposal changes term limits from 16 years to 12 years. It also, one of the problems, those that don't like term limits, and one of the things, my hangups with term limits, didn't like was the lifetime exclusion. We have young legislators that serve in their 20s and 30s, and their communities very well may want to send them back in their 50s or 60s with the experience that they have. The community doesn't have the ability to do that. Or we may have a Thomas Jefferson or a James Madison who the community wants to reelect. It took Madison 16 years from the time of 1776 to 1792 to get the Bill of Rights passed. We wouldn't be the same country without the Bill of Rights, but it took 16 years. So the ability to send Madison back and say, we need you to finish this work is a very important thing, I think. The concern with setting out 4 years and being able to return, and we wanted it to be 4 years and not 2, to be sure that legislators were truly out, is that people will just recycle and recycle. And so we looked at the 9 states that have consecutive term limits. And Ohio allows members to immediately run for the opposite chamber. In other words, if you're in the House, you can run for the Senate without sitting out at all. If you're in the Senate, you can run for the House without sitting out at all. Otherwise, they have a 4-year sit-out. 9 out of 99 Ohio House members have been previously term limited. The Ohio Senate has 2 out of 33. The other states are all similar. Less than 5% of their legislators are previous term limited legislators. And 5%, that'd be 5 in the House. That would be 2 in the Senate. That we can live with. Make term limits shorter. But again, if our choice is not this or 16 years, our choice is this or the folks bringing back the 6 years, the 8 years, and then the 10-year limit means that people will serve 6 years in the House. And then once they have some experience, we at least had the Senate with some experience. They can only serve 1 term in the Senate. And so your Senate will be a revolving door with people never working with each other over a couple of years. And plus theirs makes it where the legislature can't come and fix it and nobody else will. So it will just be our state government would be a permanent mess. So for a number of reasons, we need to vote yes on issue 2.
Let me ask you, if you run 12 years, then you're off, say you get back in for 12 years and then you're off, there's no back door to this. It would be a continuation. If you started early in life, which, hey, you add up those years, that takes you on down the road, but there's not a stopgap in this, is there? It could just be a continuous cycle.
There is not a stopgap, but if somebody did that, one, most people do not run Central Hammer until they're at least in their 30s, and most don't run until they're in their 40s or 50s. And I did the math, and it would be very difficult to do it over once, coming a second time. But let's say somebody did, 1 out of 135. The fact is when you cut those 4 years off of 135 legislators, you take that other 5%, you're still cutting term limits by hundreds of years over a 12-year cycle, even if you have a couple. And if those couple do that, the thing that bothers me sometimes when we discuss term limits, as Nancy Pelosi comes up, and, I'm certainly not only not her biggest fan, don't care for her politics at all, but is it really my business, especially if you had term limits and she went out and then San Francisco sends her back, is it my business to be the tyrant that says, no, you can't elect who you want? And so term limits doesn't just affect the individual, they affect the community who says, no, you can't send Thomas Jefferson back. No, you can't send James Madison back. Well, whether I like the person or don't like the person, once you've taken away that incumbency advantage and that person's been out 4 years, and the fact is, very few people want to come back. When we're there, we work very hard. We think we have to do it. But after we extended term limits in 2014, the people extended term limits in 2014, we had hundreds of former legislators who could have run. We've had less than 24, and only 2 of those have won. Kim Hendren, and I cannot remember the other gentleman's name that was elected in the House last time around. So, 1, they don't run again, and 2, when they do run, they don't win. So it will only be a remnant. It does what we want it to do, but it's like we put a pop-off valve, a safety valve on a water heater. We don't put it on there to let the water drain out. We put it on there so that if there's a problem, the water heater doesn't explode and the water drains out. And so this is not to allow legislators to come back. This is so if anybody needs them back, there's a way to get them back. And the legislature is not the same as being governor or president. You well know that it's supposed to be a part-time job. And even though we may spend 40, 50 hours, and those with kids at home certainly can't do that, you've got to be thinking about your family and your job and the other things. And so you don't spend 24/7 like a governor or a president does thinking about issues and dealing with these things. So it's a very short time.
I got 1 minute left for you. What's it going to do to existing legislators? What's it going to do to you and me?
Existing legislators are grandfathered in under the current law, which is 16 years. And as most people know, when you're passing new law, there's almost no way to get it done if you don't grandfather what's there. And so those that are there are grandfathered under the 16 years. Those newly elected will start under the 12-year terms.
And would we be able to come back after 4 years, or are we banned by the existing requirement of 16?
No, Senator Hammer, you are welcome to come back. I can assure you, I won't be back. But
I don't think my wife will let me come back. But anyway,
yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so either. But that's the thing. There's no selfish motive here. It just needed. If I was going to do it, I wanted to do it right, and I wanted to be transparent. And I think this is very good law.
All right. That's Senator Alan Clark. He is the crafter, the initiator of Arkansas Issue 2. You heard his explanation behind it. And a yes vote will initiate the new structure. A no vote will continue as it is with the 16-year lifetime. And so appreciate you being on the show, Alan, and hope you have a great rest of the afternoon. Thanks for being on the Kim Hammer Show. All right, we just got about 2 minutes left. So, Laura, you got any parting thoughts you want to share? You've sat through the second half. Let me give you the opportunity.
Okay, well, you asked how will we be accountable if issue 1 passes? How will voters know we'll be accountable to use the funding the way that we say we're going to use it? First of all, the current half-cent sales tax, we're going to finish all the projects we're going to finish all the projects we promised in 2012 in a less time frame than what we thought. We're going to have everything under contract or completed by the end of 2021, not 2023. Also, we get audited. We're audited so much. Our Arkansas Legislative Audit comes in. We actually have offices for them in our basement. They're there 9 months a year. They look at our finances. The Arkansas Inspector General will be auditing our efficiency review efforts to make sure we're implementing those. We get audited by Federal Highway Administration every year. They do focused audits to make sure we're handling our federal funding correctly. The appropriations budget process requires the legislature to approve our appropriations budget every 2 years. We have a highway commission that is not elected and are volunteers. They're appointed by the governor. They don't get a salary, and they make sure that we are transparent and we use the funding the way we say we're going to use it.
Very good. All right. We're down to like 15 seconds. I'm getting the head nod. We've had some technical difficulties today, but thanks, John, for helping through it. This has been the Kim Hammer Show. I hope you feel better educated about Amendment 1, 2, and 3. And you can go up to my website. I'll get some supportive material up there in the next day or two. Thank you for listening to the Kim Hammer Show, and hope you're back next week here on 101.1 FM, The Answer.
101.1 FM, The Answer. KDX.